The broken gift the skyport was loud, full of traders shouting prices and strange smells from alien food stalls. But no one noticed the quiet girl standing beside her stepfather. Her skin was pale gray, her long hair hiding half of her face. She looked down, silent as always. Everyone called her mute. Everyone except her stepfather, who just called her a burden. Her stepfather, a tall reptilian alien named Grovik, had no patience. He pulled her forward like she was an object, not a living person. "I'll trade her," he said to a human man nearby. "She's useless, but she's got clean blood. Maybe someone like you can find a use." The human Jace looked confused. He was a cargo pilot, not a slave buyer. "You're giving her away?" he asked. Grovik laughed. "She doesn't talk, doesn't cry, eats little. You won't even know she's there." Jace frowned. The girl still didn't look up. She stood very still, like she was used to being ignored. Something about her silence made Jace uncomfortable. But before he could say no, Grovik shoved a small ID tag into his hand. "Done. She's yours now." Then Grovik walked away like he had just dropped off trash. Jace stared at the girl. "What's your name?" he asked. Softly. She didn't answer. She didn't even blink. Just stood there, eyes fixed on the ground. Jace Eastside. He didn't want trouble, but he couldn't leave her standing there alone. He led her back to his ship. She followed quietly, her step so soft that he had to check if she was still behind him. Inside the ship, Jace gave her a small room. He brought her some food and water. Still, she said nothing. She sat in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, watching him with wide, unreadable eyes. Days passed. Jace didn't force her to talk. He just treated her like a person. He gave her space, warmth, and clean clothes. Every time he passed her in the hall, he nodded. Sometimes he asked small questions like, "Do you need anything?" or "Are you okay?" She never answered, but she listened. He could tell. Then, on the fourth night, everything changed. Jace was locking the control panel when he felt a soft tug on his sleeve. He turned. The girl stood behind him, hands trembling. She looked up for the first time and whispered something, so quietly that he almost missed it. "Don't take me back." Jace froze. Her voice was weak, rough like it hadn't been used in years, but it was clear. And what she said next made his blood run cold. "I know what he did to my real mother." Jace slowly turned to face her. "What did you say?" Her eyes filled with fear, but she didn't stop. "Grovik, he killed her. He told everyone she died in an accident, but I saw it. I saw everything. That's why I stopped talking. No one believed me. No one cared." She began to shake. Jace gently guided her to sit. She kept whispering. Her voice cracked like it hurt to speak, but she didn't stop now that she had begun. "He took me after that. Said the first was his property. He told me to stay quiet or he'd make me disappear like her. So I did. I stayed quiet for years." Jace couldn't believe it. "Why are you telling me this now?" She looked him in the eyes. "Because you didn't treat me like a thing. You didn't hit me. You didn't yell. You just gave me food. A room. You didn't even ask for anything." Jace sat back, shocked. He had expected a broken girl, maybe damaged, maybe sick. But this? This was something much deeper. "Do you have a name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then said, "Nyari." It was the first time she had spoken her name in years. From that moment, Jace knew things would never be the same. This wasn't just a rescued girl. This was someone running from something dangerous, something old. And she had just started to trust him. He also realized something else. Grovik had given her away too easily. It wasn't because she was worthless. It was because she was dangerous to him. Jace didn't know exactly what was going on. But now he had a scared, hunted girl on his ship. And she had finally spoken, only to him, What had he just stepped into? And why did it feel like this was only the beginning? Asterisk the whispered truth. Jace couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the girl's voice. Those soft words wouldn't leave his mind. I know what he did to my real mother. They echoed in the quiet of his ship like a ghost refusing to rest. Nayari had been silent for years, and yet she chose to speak to him. Why? The next morning, he brought her warm food again. This time, she looked at him as he set the tray down. There was fear in her eyes, but something else too, something close to hope. You don't have to be afraid, Jay said gently. No one will hurt you here. She gave a tiny nod. Jace sat on the other side of the room, far enough to not scare her. You said he killed your mother. How? Nari stared at the wall for a long time. Then her lips moved slowly. My mother was special. She had strong blood. My real father came from a house they hated. They thought her baby me was dangerous. Jace leaned forward slightly, listening closely. Grovik wasn't my father. He was her guard, but he wanted power. He betrayed her. He said she died in a fire, but I saw him. I saw him push her into it. Her voice shook as she spoke, but she didn't stop. It was like the dam had broken inside her. I was small, but I remembered everything. After that, he kept me locked away. Told others I was mute. I stayed quiet because I didn't know who to trust. I thought maybe if I didn't talk, he'd forget about me. Jace felt a deep chill. This wasn't just an abused child, this was a survivor. Neri had held on to this secret for years, alone in her silence. She was smarter and stronger than she looked. You think he gave you away because he's hiding something? Jace asked. Nyari nodded. He's scared. I'm proof of what he did. Jace rubbed the back of his neck. He wasn't ready to be involved in something this big. He was just a traitor. A simple man trying to live quietly in a galaxy that was always at war with itself. But now he had Nuri on board. And she wasn't just some quiet alien girl. She had a truth that someone wanted buried. I have to know more, he said quietly. We need to find out who your mother really was. Nyari hesitated. Then she walked across the room to a small bag Grovik had thrown at her feet when he abandoned her. She opened it and pulled out a thin metal strip, a memory band. It was old and scratched, but still had power. This belonged to her, she said, but I've never been able to open it. Jace took the band carefully and connected it to his system. The ship scanned it, unlocking layers of encrypted data. Old records filled the screen, messages, coordinates, and one name that stood out. House Virellin. Jace blinked. That name hadn't been heard in years. It was one of the ancient alien families wiped out in a civil war decades ago. Their bloodline was believed to be gone. But now, sitting in front of him, was a girl who might be the last piece of it. You're not just a victim, he said, staring at her. You're someone important. Nuri didn't react. She just looked tired. I didn't ask to be. Jace leaned back. The memory band wasn't just data, it was proof. Proof Grovik had betrayed the Virellin line. Proof Nuri was more than she seemed. But if others found out, they wouldn't protect her. They'd try to use her. We need to keep this quiet, he said. At least until I figure out who else knows you're alive. Nari looked at him closely. You believe me? Jace nodded. I do. She stared for a moment, then whispered something he didn't expect. Then I'll keep talking, only to you. That quiet promise hit him harder than any shout. Jace felt the weight of her trust, and he knew now he couldn't walk away. Whatever came next, he was part of it. Later that night, he checked incoming messages from nearby systems. One caught his eye, a bounty alert. Small, buried in a list of local notices. No name listed. Just a vague description. Gray-skinned. Female hybrid, last seen at Zexen Market. Dangerous. Bring in alive. Someone was already looking for her. Jace looked toward Nairi's room, where the light was still on. She was reading now, trying to catch up on a world she had been silent in for too long. He knew they had to leave this system fast. The silence was over. The danger was just beginning. Asterisk secrets of the Bloodnuri never liked mirrors. They reminded her of who she was supposed to be and who she could never be again. But now, standing in the dim light of Jace's ship, she stared at her reflection. For the first time, she was trying to see what others feared. What made her blood dangerous? Jace had been digging through the memory band for hours. He found names of old families, coded letters, and something that made his heart race, a genetic seal. A hidden gene marked by a rare crest used only by rulers of the old Virellan bloodline. Nairi wasn't just connected to it. She was born from it. She was a descendant of a forgotten royal house, one that had been hunted down, erased from history, and blamed for a war it never started. Jace turned to her with the truth. Your blood carries something powerful. It's why Grovik was afraid. Why he kept you silent. If people know who you are, they'll either try to control you or kill you. Nairi didn't flinch. Then I shouldn't exist. But Jace shook his head. No, you were born for something more. They tried to erase you because you matter. The deeper he searched, the more he found signs of old enemies. Certain houses that had destroyed the Virellans still held power in outer systems. If they discovered Nairi was alive, they'd see her as a threat to their rule. And now there was another problem. Jace's ship logs showed someone had tried to track their last port. It wasn't random. Someone was watching. Nairi stayed calm. Her voice was soft but sharp when she finally said, "He's not the only one who knows." I heard them whisper back in the markets. Some traders knew. They looked at me like I was something rare, something to sell or destroy. Jace sat down, feeling the weight settle in. He was no longer hiding just a girl. He was hiding a symbol. Her blood could rally old loyalists, or it could spark another. War. He remembered something Grovik said before walking away. Maybe someone like you can find a use. At the time, Jace thought it was cruelty. But now he saw the fear behind it. Grovik didn't want her to die. He wanted her hidden far enough that no one would ever connect the truth. Nairi looked over at the map glowing on the wall. There's one place my mother used to mention. She said it was safe. A garden city in the clouds. Before he burned everything, she used to tell me stories about it. Jace traced the map with his fingers. The location matched an old colony, a peaceful science outpost long abandoned. No ships had gone there in years. It was off the main routes, hidden. If there's anything left of your mother's life, it might be there, he said. Nairi nodded. Then that's where we go. They changed course. But the risk grew higher with every light year. Jace noticed a second bounty post, still no name. But now it had a symbol, one belonging to House Traver, one of the very groups responsible for killing the Virellans. It meant the hunt had begun. Quiet, secret, but very real. One night, while the ship passed through a dark nebula, Nairi joined Jace on the deck. She sat beside him without speaking at first. Then she asked, "Why are you helping me?" Jace didn't answer immediately. He looked at the stars, then at her. "Because I've done nothing good with my life. Moved cargo. Avoided war. Lived small, but helping you. It feels right." Nairi turned to him. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied. "You stayed silent to survive. You speak now because it matters. That tells me everything I need to know." Her eyes softened. For once, she didn't feel like a mistake someone tried to bury. But peace never lasted long. Right before entering the old system, a signal lit up their radar. A scout ship was following them, small, fast, and too quiet to be civilian. Jace's Stomach dropped. They found us. Neri didn't panic. She stood still and said, "Then let them come." Jace looked at her, stunned. This wasn't the same quiet girl he met days ago. This was someone ready to take back her voice and the legacy that came with it. Escape from the hunt. The stars looked calm, but Jace knew better. Calm skies were often a lie before the storm. The small scout ship following them had no name, no signal, and no lights, just quiet pursuit like a shadow with sharp teeth. It didn't need to speak. Its silence was its threat. Neri watched the radar from behind him. Her face didn't show fear. Instead, her eyes burned with something else, a focus Jace hadn't seen before. She wasn't just running anymore. She was remembering. "They won't stop," she said quietly. "They've chased my blood for years. I was just a child when it started." Jace nodded, hands steady on the controls. "Then it's time they find out you're not a child anymore." The ship broke into the old sector, half abandoned, thick with broken satellites and junked cargo haulers. Most pilots avoided it because of radiation leaks and faulty nav systems. But Jace had flown through worse. He trusted the chaos. "This place used to be a hiding ground for smugglers," he said. "Now it's perfect for ghosts." Neri closed her eyes. "Good. Let's be ghosts then." The pursuing ship didn't back off. It fired a warning shot, barely missing the rear engines. But Jace didn't panic. He twisted the ship through sharp debris fields, metal crashing around them like a storm of bones. Inside the dark hull, Nari stood calmly, gripping a metal rail. Then she spoke. "I know a path." Jace blinked. "You do?" She nodded. "My mother once hid here. She showed me maps when I was small, paths through dead machines, tunnels. The hunters couldn't follow." Without another word, she stepped beside him and touched the nav screen. Her fingers moved fast, selecting coordinates Jace didn't recognize. But something about her certainty made him follow. The ship dove through an old cargo tunnel, sliding between broken freighters and thick clouds of magnetic dust. The enemy ship couldn't keep up. It slowed, tried to reroute. But by the time it found its way around, Jace and Nari were gone. Safe for now, they landed on a nearby moon, cracked and quiet. It had no name, no records. But under the surface, an old bunker still hummed with power. Jace had never seen it before. "My mother built this," Nari said, placing her hand on the wall. "Before they killed her, it was her last hiding place." Inside, the bunker felt frozen in time. Crates of old tech, maps of ancient houses, and one sealed case with a glowing symbol, the crest of VIRLN.NYAR. I stared at it for a long time. "This is what they want," she whispered. "Not just me. Not just my blood. This," Jace opened the case carefully. Inside were small silver cylinders, data cores, royal archives, hidden histories, evidence, the truth they tried to destroy. Nari stepped forward and lifted one. "This proves everything. My mother's death, Grovik's betrayal, the war they blamed on us. It was never our fault." Jace watched her closely. She wasn't trembling anymore. She stood tall, voice steady, hands sure. Her silence had once been her shield. Now her words were becoming her sword. They loaded the data cores into the ship. Jace knew the hunters would return. The scout ship was only the beginning. If these data cores reached the right hands, the galaxy's balance could shift. Everything the ruling houses had built through lies and blood could fall. As they prepared to leave, Nari asked, "What if they catch us?" Jace looked at her. "Serious. Then we make them listen. You're not a secret anymore, Nari. You're a truth they can't bury." She smiled for the first time. It was small, quiet, but it was real. The silence was no longer her prison. Now it was her enemies. Last message her mother left, the ship drifted through the quiet dark, stars blinking like watchful eyes. But Nairi's thoughts were louder than any silence. She held the small silver data core in her hands like it was a living thing. This tiny cylinder, hidden in a forgotten bunker, carried her mother's final voice, a truth buried for years. Beneath lies and blood, they reached the edge of an unregistered system, just as Nairi had remembered. It was where her mother once spoke of safety, a place called Arvinis. Once it was a garden world in the clouds. Now it was abandoned, left behind after a storm tore through the sky domes. But some believed it still held secrets, whispers of peace, long before war came. When Jace landed the ship near the ruins, the air smelled faintly sweet, like flowers that had survived the end. Vines crawled across old walls. Broken towers stood like bones of a forgotten dream. Nairi walked alone through the shattered garden, holding the data core tight. She stopped when she found the ancient bench her mother once described in bedtime stories, stone carved with the symbol of Virelin. The same symbol now glowing softly from the core in her palm. She placed the core into an old port hidden behind the bench. It clicked, then hummed. A hologram appeared. It was her mother. Not older, not afraid, but young, calm, and beautiful. If you are seeing this, the woman said, then I am gone. And my daughter lives. Nairi's breath caught. I knew they would try to silence me. They feared peace. They feared what your birth meant, unity between rival houses. So they lied. They called it betrayal. They called me weak. But I gave everything to protect you. Jace stepped back, giving Nairi space. I've hidden the truth inside this message, her mother continued. The truth of who started the war, who destroyed our name, and why. You, my daughter, carry the blood of peace, but they will only see you as danger. So listen now. The hologram flickered, then showed a burst of files, battle plans, secret names, communication logs. Proof that House Traver and their allies had faked the attack that started the royal purge. Proof Grovik had helped them. And proof Nairi's mother had tried to stop it, only to be betrayed from within. The final part of the message returned to the woman's face. She looked into the camera, soft but strong. If you are ready, speak. If not, survive. But know this, my daughter, you are not alone. Someone will find you. Someone will believe you. And when they do, you will have the voice I lost. The hologram faded. Nairi stood still, eyes wet, but her hands no longer shook. She knew, she whispered. She knew they would come for her. She knew I'd have to carry this. Jay stepped beside her. Now the truth isn't just yours. It's the galaxy's. Nairi looked toward the sky. It felt different now, like it belonged to her too. The silence she had lived in wasn't just from fear, it was a waiting place. A quiet before her voice became something that mattered. I'm done hiding, she said. They uploaded the data from the core to Jace's secure system. The files were massive, evidence enough to shatter entire houses if sent to the right channels. But sending it too early would only bring more danger. They had to be smart, precise. We'll find someone who can protect this truth, Jace said. A neutral system. A voice big enough to make them listen. Nairi nodded. And if they come for me, Jace smiled. Then they'll find someone who isn't afraid anymore. The garden winds moved gently through the broken dome above them. Nairi held her mother's symbol in her hand, not as a memory, but as a mummery, but as a weapon. A promise. The girl they once called mute had just heard her mother's last message. Now, the galaxy was going to hear hers. Asterisk. The stepfather strikes back. The silence didn't last long. The moment the data core was activated and its message uncovered, ripples began spreading across the system. Unmarked ships changed direction. listening post pinged old codes. Somewhere, deep in space, Grovik got the alert, and he moved fast. Myar, I felt it before the alarm sounded. Her skin prickled, her breath shortened, like the past was catching up with her at full speed. Jace saw it in her eyes before the radar even lit up red. He's coming, isn't he? Jace asked. Nyare didn't blink. Yes, they tried to leave Arvinis quietly, but Grovik had already found them. His ship arrived like a storm, bigger, armed, silent no more. This time, he didn't need to trade or lie. This time, he came with force. He didn't want to erase Nyare anymore. He wanted to own her truth. A message crackled through the comms as his ship hovered above. Grovik's voice, deep and mocking, filled the air. You should have stayed quiet, little one. Now you've made yourself a problem. Jace stood at the controls, calm but ready. She's not yours anymore, Grovik laughed. She was never mine, she was a tool. I fed her, kept her alive, and you think that makes me a monster? Her mother was the real traitor. I just cleaned the mess. Nyare stepped forward, switching on the external mic. She spoke without fear. You didn't feed me. You caged me. The line went silent for a second. Then Grovik answered, cold and sharp, and I'll cage you again, or end you. But this wasn't the same Nyare he once dragged by the arm. This Nyare had found her voice, and with it, her power. She activated the beacon from her mother's data core, broadcasting the files to a secure channel. Not to start a war, but to start a reckoning. You won't silence me again, she said, loud enough for his whole crew to hear. You killed my mother. You lied about our house, and now the truth is free. Grovik snarled. You think anyone will care? You think your voice matters? Jace stood beside her. It already does. Then Grovik made his final move. He launched a boarding pod, fast and aimed directly at their ship. Jace locked systems, prepared for breach, but Nyare didn't run. She stood near the door, calm. I want to face him, she said. Jace hesitated. You don't have to. I do, she interrupted. I need to say what I've never said. The pod slammed against their side. Steam and metal clashed. Then Grovik stepped into the hallway, taller, heavier armored. His eyes locked onto Nyare. You look like her, he said slowly. Same soft eyes, same weakness. Nyare didn't flinch. She was stronger than you ever understood. And now I am too. Grovik took a step forward. You have nothing. No army, no name, no future. Nyare raised her chin. I have something you never had. He paused. What? She looked at Jace, then back at her stepfather. Someone who listens. Before Grovik could react, Jace hit the remote on his belt. The emergency gate between them slammed shut, trapping Grovik inside the loading bay. Nyare stepped to the panel and looked him in the eye one last time. I was never your prisoner. I was just waiting for the moment you feared the most. Grovik shouted, slamming the wall, but she pressed the launch button. The pod he came in was ejected back into space, trapped with him inside. Jace turned to her, impressed. That was cold. No, she said softly, that was justice. For the first time in her life, Nyare had looked her monster in the face and told him the truth. Not with rage, not with fear, but with clarity. She had broken the chains without raising a hand. And now, her stepfather was the one locked behind silence. Asterisk, her voice changed everything. The galaxy didn't shift all at once. It never does. But somewhere in the quiet corners of distant systems, something started to break old lies, old names, and old fears. And at the center of it was a girl they once called Mute. Nyare stood before a console screen, her eyes steady. As the transmission began, across hundreds of stations, secure relays blinked alive. Officials, rebels, scholars, and exiles tuned in to the unexpected message, the last words of House Virelin, spoken not by a ruler, but by the daughter they tried to erase. "My name is Niari," she said clearly, her voice calm and strong. "I was told to stay silent. I was told I was nothing, that my blood made me a threat, that my voice would never be heard." She paused only once, letting her words carry the weight of truth. "I was hidden. My mother was murdered. And my stepfather Grovik kept me as property to protect a lie. That lie is over now." Behind her, the glowing crest of Virelin flickered. Next to it, files from her mother's data core rolled across the screen names of traitors, stolen transmissions, and proof of the war's true origin. "I speak not for revenge," she continued, "but for truth. The truth they feared so much. They tried to kill a child to bury it." Across systems, people began to speak her name, not in whispers but in recognition. She wasn't a myth. She wasn't a ghost. She was real, and she was alive. JSCE watched from the back of the room, silent and proud. He had seen her journey from a girl who didn't speak to a voice that could shake thrones. She had once needed his protection. Now she needed only a microphone. The reaction came fast. Some houses denied the message, calling it a fabrication. Others, those who remembered the Virelins with honor, rose in support. Protests began. Old banners were pulled from hiding. Even some soldiers laid down their colors, saying they would no longer serve lies. But most of all, something changed in the people, not governments, not armies. Just people, ordinary voices that began to echo hers. She gave interviews, not long, not dramatic. Just simple answers to simple questions. Each time, more viewers tuned in. Not because she was royalty, but because she was honest. In one interview, a reporter asked, "What gave you the strength to speak?" Nari looked into the lens and said, "Someone listened when they didn't have to. And that gave me the courage to speak when I didn't want to." The message spread faster than any command from a throne. Her face, once hidden in shadow, now appeared on walls, holograms, and messages of hope. "Speak like Niari," people said. "Be the truth they can't silence." She didn't ask to lead. But the galaxy was tired of silence. In time, a council offered her a seat, a symbol of rebuilding what was lost. She refused. "I'm not here to rule," she said. "I'm here to remind you power built on lies can only stand in silence. Break the silence, and the truth stands free." Later, on the same ship where it all began, she stood beside Jace. He smiled at her. "So what now?" Nari looked out at the stars. "Now I live. Not as a secret, not as a weapon, just as myself." Jace nodded. "That's more than enough." The stars stretched wide before them. She had no crown, no throne, no army, but she had something stronger, her voice. And this time, no one could take it from her.